badassery. And so I want to kick this off by having you walk us through maybe the highlights of your career trajectory and I don't know, give us the highs and lows or whatever you feel called to today. From what Chap has told me, you are likely the most interesting man in the world, so I can't wait to get into it.
Not even close, but so I joined the Navy when I was right out of high school. Decided to go into the SEAL teams. Went through boot camp in '95. Decided to go to BUDS. And got there in '98 and went through BUDS in '98. Got to SEAL Team 4 and
just like that.
Did a couple deployments.
You know, just like that.
Yeah.
No big deal.
As one does.
Right. So
now BUDS. Okay, let's talk about that real quick. You have a saying that I'm not sure if you came up with it but it was like your mantra during BUDS, and I know what it is, but it was like put your brain in. Okay.
Yep, that's
right. Really, and can you explain this?
Okay, so trying to go to BUDS.
Just P.S. Our audience, including myself, really need the full 101 basics breakdown because we have no clue. I have no clue. I'm going to speak for most of the audience.
What's BUDS?
Yeah. So we weren't Navy SEALs.
Okay, so BUDS is basic underwater demolition SEAL training. That's what you have to go through in order to become a SEAL. And it's about 6 to 8 months, depending on if you get injured or not. But I made it through first time and without any injuries, thank God, and graduated with class 12. So in my endeavor to go to BUDS, I ended up meeting Dick Marcinko at a book signing.
And right? Who is he?
He wrote a bunch of books about the SEAL teams.
Okay.
So I was just doing everything I could to understand what the SEAL teams were about, understand what I needed to do. And
really doing your homework.
Really doing my homework, right? Well, in this book, he wrote a little saying, said, put your brain in neutral and your ass in gear. And that always stuck with me.
And what does that mean?
It means that you have to just kind of become neutral, numb to the situation, and just charge through. No matter how cold the water is, no matter how sandy it is, no matter how bad you hurt, you just got to keep moving, got to keep going. And that's what kind of always stuck in the back of my head on the nights I was cold and wet and tired, and just kept going.
That's such an easy thing to remember, obviously harder to deploy.
Right.
But that's the art in it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting, too, just because of I think there's two sides to this, but when you bring up numbness and just moving forward, of course, there's the part of me that's like the psychology nerd that's like, oh God, we need to feel our feelings. We need to feel our feelings. And because I know something we're going to talk about later in the show is the very successful relationship you have with your wife, you must be good at also feeling your feelings at this point in your life because you have to in order to communicate well with a woman, let me tell you.
It has played. There's a lot of lessons that's been learned in the SEAL teams and a lot of things that you do just because of that's your nature. That's what you've been trained to do. Mm-hmm. And, going back a little bit, a lot of guys will tell you, and I agree with it, that I was just too stupid to quit. And that goes back to that kind of numbness, that idea that you're just going to make it through no matter what you're feeling. Because one of the things that you learn in BUDS is that your body, your mind, your emotions are a lot more capable of what you think they are. I like one thing I tell a lot of people is I don't believe in 110%. I don't believe in 120% because 100% is 100%, period. Right?
Right. She's maxed out.
Maxed out is maxed out. There's no 110%.
You feel you're dying at that 100%.
Yeah,
I mean, you've hit your. So it's interesting though, right? Now, take you after BUDS, you get into on the teams. You're on SEAL Team 4. Can you explain the way that's broken odd and even?
So SEAL teams are set up. Basically, even teams are stationed on the East Coast.
Okay.
So you have 2, 4, 8, and 10 on the East Coast basis.
Okay.
And then on the West Coast, you have your odd number teams.
And then 6 is special. Why?
6 is special.
Sex is 2, but 6 is special.
6 is special too. But 6, SEAL Team 6 is doesn't exist.
Right. Okay. There we go. So enough said.
But they do their own thing. They're
okay.
Great guys.
Okay.
Great guys.
And so, but once you're on the teams though, there are times and places for your brain in neutral and your ass in gear, but you really, because you are special operations, you have to use your brain all the time. You're not just following. You are your own special operation. I mean, you have to you have to really use your brain now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I love that we're using this mantra because I feel like that brain in neutral idea is so much about displacing the thoughts that are going to carry you away and take you away from your mission, but you still got to have some logic in the situation.
And I tell you that the guys in the SEAL teams, and I say the SEAL teams just because that's where I was, but when I refer to SEAL teams, I could refer to any special operations, Army, SF, Air Force, PJs, and CCT. I could refer to even the Ranger battalions are just phenomenal people and extremely intelligent. And the guys that I worked with in the SEAL teams, just amazing guys. So I went through sniper school. I was lucky enough to get through sniper school. In sniper school at Camp Atterbury, Indiana, there's just so much math, so much intelligence that you have to have in order to take a shot at 800,000 yards and understand the ballistics behind it, understand what wind's doing, understand how the flight path of the round is going to impact and what it's going to do. So dive math, dive physics, dive everything that is involved with that.
Jumping, I guess, as well.
Jumping, everything that you do is very involved, and that's one of the things that I loved about the SEAL teams, is that we would go jump, right? We'd go, hey guys, we're pack your gear, we're gonna go do jump training, right? And we would go, out to Yuma, or we'd go somewhere, and we'd jump, and we'd do day jumps, night jumps, combat equipment jumps, O2 jumps, right? And you would be like, oh my God, this is so freaking horrible. I'm never gonna pack a chute again. They'd be like, all right, guys, pack it up. Let's go. We're gonna go to dive, right? And then we would be like, yeah, we're gonna go dive, right? And then we'd go dive, and we'd.
I hate diving. Fish want to kill fish.
Right. But then you would dive, and you'd be awesome. You'd be someplace, Puerto Rico, and you'd be diving day, night, freaking exhaustion dives and all this stuff. And then you'd be like, oh my God, I don't ever want to put this dragger on again, right? Pack it up, guys. We're going to go do, whatever.
Now, right. I mean, and now during all this, though, you have to take a breath and think of where you are and be like, I am living my dream.
Yeah.
You have to do that, right? And you did that?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, obviously from my time in high school, I just wanted to be, a team. And a lot of guys do. And I made it happen. And I got to see portions of the world that people never get to see. I got to do things that people never get to do. And it's just amazing. And one of the things about it is I just worked with amazing people, the men.
And the intelligence, too, we're talking about.
Yes. The men that are in the SEAL teams are just, I'd go to war with any of them.
But just good people, too.
Good people.
Yeah.
Just good, solid people.
And then after the teams, because we could do, 4 or 5 hours on this one, and we maybe we will in a future episode. But of course, with your permission, but or your participation. But after the teams, where did you go?
So I had an interesting, I don't want to say situation. I had screened and got picked up for Dev Group. I was supposed to go to Green Team in 04.
And talk about what that is.
It's just another program that we talked about.
Yeah,
right.
Okay.
And so I was supposed to go to Green Team in 04, and my wife at the time we had just had our daughter, and she was born premature, 25 weeks. And it really kind of made me think about family life, right? And my buddies over at Dev Group were like, dude, it's awesome. We're going all the time. We're jumping. We're doing a war. We're going to, you're going all this. It's like, this is what the teams are supposed to be like, right? And I was super excited about it. And I was like, man, if I go there, I'm going to be gone for the next at least 5 years, right? Ooh. At least 5 years minimum. And then possibly go back to, regular teams or stay there, whatever. Long story short, ended up looking at a career where I would be gone 8 to 10 months a year for the next 10 years.
And you're thinking about your family
And I'm
life,
thinking
obviously.
about my daughter,
Yeah.
who had just been born premature. And I had a son too. So I made the decision to cut away, get out of the Navy. And at that time, I found a job with AMTI. It was a company, they no longer exist. They got bought out by another company. But I was doing security assessments for Homeland Security. And I would go to somewhere in the continental U.S. and some facilities, some chemical manufacturing plant, some football stadium, some bridge, something that DHS deemed as a critical asset. And we would do a one-day security assessment on it. It's hard to say security assessment on it because in one day you can't really do a security assessment. But you can go and tell them, hey, there's a hole in your fence. Hey, your cameras aren't working. Hey,
or hey, hire us for more work.
And well, that was
Right.
that was part of it too,
Right,
sure.
I bet.
But,
so then you did that.
Yeah.
Now, what after that? What happened then?
So after that, I ended up getting a job with Blackwater, which is a contracting company or a security company.
You can look it up.
Most people know.
Yeah, we can look it
what
up.
Blackwater.
What
is.
maybe just for our audience, because I didn't know what that was before I met Chap. What might that entail? Like, what is
As
a
an
Blackwater
example,
operator?
not you, but as
not
an
necessarily
example.
you.
All right.
Like,
So-
what does the job encompass potentially?
So at the time, I got hired on ultimately as a firearms and tactics instructor. I was there to teach basic firearms and military tactics to certain groups. I ultimately found my position in a portion of the company that worked for a certain agency, certain client that is up in D.C., and I found myself doing on the mobile security side of that. There's been,
Right.
basically if you saw 13 hours, that's what we did.
Okay.
Right? So that we were part of that contract, or I was part of that contract. So, and that was to provide basically security to the client.
And how long roughly were you there for?
So my position there, like I said, was as a firearms and tactics instructor. So I did not deploy full time with that. I did deploy basically part time with that because I was more part of the training portion of the program versus the operational portion.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, right.
So I did deploy quite a few times.
But this was your job.
This was my job.
Yeah.
Right. This was my job. And I loved it. And I worked with amazing people there too. And that's where I found out basically that these guys that come from the SOF community, Special Operation Forces community, being Green Berets, Air Force, whatever it is, are just phenomenal people. They would do anything for you.
I mean, they're your boys.
And they're just men. Let me say that. They're just solid men.
Yeah, I've known a few Navy SEALs in my life, and I can definitely attest to the fact that there's something that comes with the personality that's willing to work that hard or that type of work ethic or push themselves through things that most humans would not endure, that creates a certain type of human who understands pain, which is a human experience we all go through to some degree or another, and knows their tolerance of it. Do you think that that's really a lot of what, if you bring what you learned through all these different phases of your career, bringing that through into real life, like how does that translate?
It translates in the fact that you realize that the things that you deemed as limitations aren't limitations. The things that you feel like can't be done, that they can be done.
So your brain is like the barrier.
A lot of it, yeah.
And that goes back to put your brain in neutral and your ass in gear.
A little bit,
Yeah.
So I like to use the mantra action over insight, which I feel like is largely similar.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So after, go ahead. Sorry.
And it's funny that you say that, because one of the big sayings that I've always believed in is there's a paralysis by analysis, right? And that's what you're talking about. And that's one of those things that people, they overthink things and end up being ineffective or you know.
Well, I have a member of my family that I'm like, work through it, you know who it is, work through it. Let's work through it.
Yeah.
Because you have to work through it.
Right.
Just stopping is what deer in the headlight.
Yeah.
You're gonna get
Hit.
deer meat if you do that.
Yeah.
So after this period of time, right? Let's switch gears a little bit.
Okay.
Although I would love to stay on the subject forever, but switching gears to relationships. I'm going to start with, you got married at a young age. Go.
Okay. I got married at a young age. Bad mistake.
How old's young? Roughly?
I was 22 when I got married.
Yeah,
so I just got to SEAL Team 4. I met this really, really wonderful woman, right? And we got married really quick. It was about probably 10, 11 months from the time we met to the time we got married. Obviously a bad mistake in hindsight, right? However, it was good, right? So we ended up having 2 kids together. She stuck with me through all the deployments. She, you know, backed me up with all the things that we did. And in 2013, we ended up getting separated. She basically, we ended up getting separated.
Yeah, but there was but like you said, there was no abuse, no alcoholism, no adultery, nothing like that.
No cheating, no beating. That's kind of what I like to say, right? No cheating, no beating.
So it's kind of a little bit of I don't want to put words in your mouth, but was it a little bit of a shock?
It was a little bit of a shock, right? I mean, we obviously were struggling because we were arguing all the time. We had problems. Most marriages do, right? So what happened was I was on a trip. I came home. She recommended that we go to counseling. And for the counseling, she recommended I go live with my parents for the couple sessions while we were apart and then come back together. We'll be back together, so on and so forth. Well,
and that's kind of maybe a little bit of a red flag looking back, right?
Yeah.
That's okay. That's okay.
No, it is a lesson learned. You know, everything you do in life is a lesson. You know what I mean? So I have no regrets. But looking back on it, that was a red flag. And, you know, I was, my dad told me that, and I should have listened to Dad. You know, he's always
There's no way to predict that. I mean,
no way to predict
of course,
that.
if you're already not in a good space, it's probably sometimes is healthier to live apart for some time, but.
Right. Long story short, she filed for divorce while I was out and basically claimed that I left, you know.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But that's done and over with, right? That's how it ended. And then I was basically thrusted into the dating world.
And how old were you at this point?
36.
Wow.
Yeah. 36.
And you had not been on a date in how many years?
Man, dude.
400.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right, a period
at
of time.
least 22. Yeah.
I can't do the math. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
So a period of time, right?
Yeah, it was a long
good bit of time, right?
So that was a whole new challenge for a 36-year-old guy that is, you know, back in the
names. Like, let's talk about it. Like, why? And because, you know, most of our listeners, or a good bit, are going to be males, and you know, maybe entering the dating world themselves after a divorce or newly in the dating world. So to hear this from you, it's very humanizing, but it's also encouraging to, you know, whomever that, look, this guy is starting to enter the same world that I've either been in or in entering myself.
Right. So, the first girl that I started dating when I was single, quote unquote single, was significantly younger. She was about 26, right? Awesome girl. And the struggle that I found myself having was trying to fit in with the 26-year-old. Trying to fit in
with her specifically, or just with 26-year-olds in general?
It would have been with 26-year-olds in general, or that age group, because here I am, relatively more mature, mentally more mature, emotionally more mature, and I'm dealing with her and her friends and going out with her to that crowd, and I tried to fit in.
Yeah, it's really fascinating because even though you had all this experience in life, the way that you did, getting up to this point, and you have these parts of you that are mature, you had this other place of you that was still trying to fit in and try. I mean, that's, you know, and it's almost this immature part inside of you that was still trying to make things.
And that's that's the best word for it, immature part of me emotionally trying to understand how to grow, right, and how to ultimately be myself is what I found out at the end.
And that's weird because, or it's not weird, but it's you or yourself, which is why you became special operations and very successful. But then you now are thrust into this world where you're thinking now you shouldn't be yourself, but then you learn in the end to be yourself.
Right, and that's it. So I dated this girl, probably maybe 4 or 5 months, maybe. She ended it pretty quickly. And then
how'd that make you feel just generally that she ended?
Honestly, it was like a kid, like I was back in high school, you know? I mean, it was like a kind of a broken heart type of thing that I felt back when I was in high school. And here I am, a 36 grown man, and I feel like I just lost a high school girlfriend, you know what I mean? It was weird. Yeah. It was a weird feeling, I'm telling you.
It is wild to not, you know, when we go into romantic relationships, it's so different than the other pains that you're dealing with in the world, the other strife that you have gone through, maybe physically and emotionally and mentally, going through SEAL teams, going through these other places in your life that you had mastered. You're like, I got this. And then you get into a relationship where your heart is allowed to soften, and suddenly you're like, wait, I'm not ready for this emotional tenderness. Like, this is some other shit that I have not worked through yet.
Yeah.
And so this is all part of your learning process in the romantic world.
It was really, you know, part of the maturation process, you know, just growing through and learning how. What did
you do with that?
Man, it was
reassess your game.
It was
reassess your game.
It was, and you know, it was weird talking to other guys. You know, the guys on the range would be on the range and I'd be say, hey, you know, I went out on this date and. Like, yeah, you can't be clingy. You can't do this. You can't do that.
And you're like, what are you talking about?
That's like, what are you talking about, man? You know, so anyways.
Do you think, so I love that you bring up other guys that you would have these conversations with because you had this background with a serious brotherhood, which so many men do not have in their lives. So many men don't have brotherhoods. They don't have elder male mentors, and I think these are like necessary for initiation into manhood. But because you had those tools, was there a lot of learning that happened inside of your friends groups and inside of the places that you worked with these guys or wherever you were with these other men?
It's hard to say because as much as I love my brothers, it's a tough group.
You don't say.
It's very real. Like they will tell you exactly what is up, and that's one of the things that I love about it. It's truth. There's no, you know, sugar
padding it.
There's no sugar coating or padding anything.
But sometimes there's a way to deliver the truth that's a little more nice and
but they're delivering the
if
truth.
You want that, you need to go somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah.
If you want it not delivered someplace nice, you need to, you know,
coffee shop maybe in San Francisco.
Yeah, go to San Francisco or something like that. Right.
Yeah, there you go.
So having access to the truth. That must have been a tool, though, I would assume.
It was. But how I was able to process it was a little difficult.
Well, how did you do that, though? Because now we have, you're getting hammered. You're entering the dating world. You didn't want to. You now have one relationship failure, and it was on, she broke up. And now you're like, what am I doing? Like, what do I need to do? And how did you reinvent yourself, but how did you rise to the occasion, or what did you do next? Or maybe you didn't.
What's
at that
your
moment.
evolution look like
right.
at that point?
So ultimately my sister introduced me to another girl, and we started dating. And again, another amazing woman. And I couldn't say anything bad about her, even if I wanted to. And we dated for about a year and a half. It was a while, but it just wasn't there. Like
the chemistry
wasn't there.
So on paper, 100% what everyone would be like, this is what fits with Chad. And then
Yes.
in person and energetically
Yes.
just wasn't a fit.
And she loved me a lot. I mean, she knew everything about me. She knew my facial expression. She knew, just everything about me. But it just wasn't reciprocated. I could not reciprocate.
The numbers added up, but
the
the math
but
wasn't
the
what
math
was
didn't
right.
add,
Okay. Yeah.
So, she was just, she was awesome, and but I just didn't love her in the way that I felt like I should have.
But and how was that to know that there was this human, that the math made sense, but you had to terminate it?
It ultimately terminated on its own.
Okay.
I didn't necessarily. I mean, I did just say, "Hey, we can't be friends like this anymore. We can't work. It's not going to work out." So
I think a lot of men at that point, they just decide to settle because they don't want to go dive back into the dating, pool, or
And they're looking at logic, right?
they're looking at logic.
Yeah, you can't do that all the time, especially here.
Well, in romantic relationship, that's why they're so tricky, is because you have to live in mostly live in the world of kind of magic. It is really this place where your heart has to be open enough to experience all the emotions and all the stuff that isn't cement, concrete, logical. It is
Right.
really kind of fluid.
mm-hmm.
And then, so we're in this. I mean, you're in the kind of the doldrums of the dating world, as it were.
So you're here in this situation with this woman, and at that point, what's the interception? I know you're coming to it.
So here's the interception. So I'll go ahead, kind of sum up the long story. So my son was dating this girl. My son was 16 at the time, and I went to a birthday party for his girlfriend, and a good friend of the family walked in, and like I said, I was dating somebody at the time, and I turned to her mom, and I was like, "Who is that? I've got to know who that is, right?" And it was
Hold on. What was it about this person?
she's just gorgeous,
Yeah.
amazingly gorgeous, right? Even now, like, I'll come around a corner and see her. Ultimately, I'm going to ruin
the ending.
Yeah,
You're ruining the ending.
I'm
That's
ruin the
okay.
ending, right?
All right.
But I'll
keep
come
going.
around the corner and I'll see her. My heart still just jumps, right?
Right.
But from the start, it was just a physical attraction, right? So, but the way the story goes is that because of her relationship with the family, we would always kind of go out together without going out together. Like, we would have a family get together at a restaurant, and I'd be like, hey, invite Tammy,
this is.
invite Tammy, right? So Tammy would come and join the group, and I would be there with my girlfriend.
Oh no!
And unfortunately, I would be like, "Oh my
can't
gosh,
help it, man.
this girl's amazing, right?" And I'd be talking to her,
Sometimes you can't help
right?
it.
So I ended up having to quote unquote rip the Band-Aid on that, and
But you did, though.
yeah, absolutely. And the one thing that I knew about Tammy when we started dating was I didn't have to be anybody else. I didn't have to force myself to try to fit into anything, any box or any type of way. With Tammy, I just felt myself. I felt like I was able to be completely, Chad. So that is one of the big key indicators.
How much of that do you think was, so just to be clear, you broke up with the ex or the person you were dating, and then you started dating Tammy, and immediately you just felt like you could be yourself, and it was new for you because you had not experienced that before. But how much of that was your side of the street where you were showing up for yourself, for your own boundaries, for your own needs and desires, and just saying, like, this is me, this is Chad, this is who I want to be, and this is who I'm going to be? And how much of that came from Tammy, of her acceptance and her willingness to just see you for who you were?
So it's 100%. I mean, and let me explain. 100% on both sides. Because, and this is completely contradictory to what I said earlier, right?
That's life, man.
Right? So you have to give it 100%, and she has to give 100%. And if there's an argument, whose fault is it? It's 100% both of your fault on both sides. And you both have to be mature enough and willing to, humble enough to say, hey, I'm sorry, it's my fault. This is what I could do better. This is what, is going on. And on my side, it's like, hey, I understand this is going on. I need to be more patient. I need to be more, understanding. And it's 100% on both sides.
So was this the first relationship where you found that part of yourself or remembered that part of yourself that was immature at one point and it finally showed up into its manhood, essentially, to take responsibility for your side of the street? Was this the first time in relationship you were fully willing to do that? Or you were with a woman who was fully willing to do it and you were fully willing
I
to
think
do it?
that's more of it. She brought that out of me.
Okay.
And I don't think that I ever really had to do it that much in previous relationships, in the sense of we didn't have, arguments. We didn't have a lot of, issues until, when you're with somebody for a while, you're obviously going to have some type of disagreement, some type of arguments. Although with Tammy, I haven't had a lot. However, being able to recognize that I have to have the patience, being able to recognize that I have to be understanding, really came out with Tammy. Like, she brought that out of me. Right.
Yeah. So knowing that you both are willing to exercise this tool of slowing down, understanding for yourselves what is your side of the street in the argument or the conflict, take responsibility for it, say sorry, or whatever is needed to happen there to heal, gives you that confidence in the relationship that going forward, there's really nothing you can't overcome with that mindset.
Right. Absolutely.
So this is a beautiful story. What happened next?
So we dated for 3 years, and I wasn't going to make the mistake again.
Don't make that mistake.
Don't make that mistake again. And
this is being recorded, just so you know.
Absolutely. So no, there's no regrets. We ended up getting married in 2018, and she's just amazing.
Well, lucky for us, we have her. Okay, and let's get her to just pop her little head in.
Hi, Tammy.
And just pop over there near your buddy over there.
Aww, look at this little love story. How
so
sweet.
Cute. Yeah, it's very sweet. So, Chad, either one, you can stay there or you can hang out. It's whatever you want. You just hang out there.
Hang out with me.
You just hang out there. Yeah, that's good. You're his arm candy. That's pretty much it. So Chad, you know what, Mercedes, Mercedes and I, we kind of had this idea when we got into this that there were some reoccurring themes. What themes did we hear? Chad doesn't know any of these other individuals we have had on or who we're going to have on, but we heard what? Persistence, right? Studying knowing what you needed to do.
We call it big dick energy here.
Yeah, what is
the
that?
acronym? So DICK is direction, integrity, critical thinking, and being kind or kindness. So essentially that's what all women are looking for in a man. And that's really something that I think you're being an example of as what you're showing up for in the world in your relationship, but just generally like how I think you probably can attest to experiencing that you have those qualities and they don't come easily. They've come with a lot of trials, tribulations, pain, and but you stuck with it long enough and you saw the pain through to the revelation on the other side.
Right.
And being yourself.
And being yourself.
Being yourself.
And that goes back to the integrity part of what you're talking about. One of the biggest things that I've found and I'm working on now is that kindness part.
Yeah.
Well, you've got from my end, that's all I see.
Yeah, because it's a struggle for me. And
what can you give an example of how you see that?
So
not always your best foot forward on that.
Right. So here's where I'll integrate my past life with my current life.
Okay.
In the SEAL teams, we got things done. We got, hey, break through that wall. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm going to break through that wall. It doesn't matter how long it takes. It doesn't matter what I have to do. I'm going to break through that wall. And we expected our buddies to do that. We expected our teammates to be the same way. Right. And now in a marriage, in a relationship, it's like, hey, let's go. And if it doesn't happen the way I expect it to, then I have to dig down inside, get back to that persistence, and be like, hey, this is not the SEAL teams. This is your wife.
So it's like a
right.
bulldozing to complete the mission versus slowing down and assessing what's actually the better way of going about it to complete the mission.
Absolutely. Yes.
Love it. Okay, so go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
and I mean, Tammy is just, obviously I could talk for days about her.
Yeah, so could we.
Right?
Yeah.
But she owns her own business, and she's just an amazing businesswoman, and just is so smart. And there's so many times where I'll be like, hey, we should do this. And she's like, no, this is, and then I look at why we don't do it that way. And it's because it's so complex and so, involved, and she's already done it that way. And she knows,
And it's beautiful that you're willing to see her as an oracle in that way, that you're willing to go, I have enough wherewithal as a man to know that this woman, who I obviously have faith in her ability to discern what's good, moving forward, her experiences, you have trust in her experiences and what she brings to the table enough to say, yeah, you probably are right in this situation. I think that is a really hard thing for a lot of men to mature to a place where they can do that.
And because I'm always, bigger, better, faster, harder, let's go. And she is definitely my ground. She is definitely the one that pulls the reins back and keeps me, in check, in line with just life in general.
So Chad has a place in the constellations as one of the Greek gods.
Oh, yeah?
Yep. Well, he doesn't think so, but the reality is it's true.
I don't believe
I know. But it sounded good, didn't it?
It does.
Okay, so amazing. Chad can be found nowhere, actually, so we're not going to go anything with that. Mercedes, you like to wrap it up here?
Yeah, thank you, first of all, Chad and Tammy, for being here with us today. You guys are a shining example of what a beautiful relationship looks like, and I think that is something we do not have enough of on this planet. So however you came to it, whatever your domestications and experiences it took to get to this point, I'm just so happy you stuck it through and decided not to settle until you found something that was really right for who you actually are. And also because of the self-love you must have had for yourselves in order to not settle, in order to continue on that path. So thank you for that example. Thank you for being here.
Any relationship is work, but she makes it easy,
Yeah, well said. That's called love.
Sweet.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Chad.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you for watching us today. And if you'd like to be a part of our community, please subscribe, connect, comment in the links below, and we will catch you again next week. Bye for now.